You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we hang out and talk about everything from hammocks and hammock camping to the group hangs from around the country. All right, everybody, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Hammock Hangers Podcast. I am your host, Paul Collins, or also known as Skunkape. I've got my co-host, AJ Lynn, or Pheonix here.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
And our guest this week is Marc Bohman with Teton Hammocks. He's another one of our vendors that is always graciously donating to HangCon and helping us out. And so today we get to hear about him and his camping and hammocking experience, and also hear about Teton Hammock Company and everything that he makes. So how are you doing today, Marc?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate being on, be able to talk with you guys. I'm a little jealous. Everybody has trail names. If you look at my name on the screen there, there's no trail name. So I'm just throwing that out there for you guys. So
we can get you a trail name.
Right on. But glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're definitely glad to have you on, and we love having our vendors on, and we thoroughly thank you for all your support for HangCon. We could not do it without you guys. So we are sincerely thankful for your gracious generosity toward our humble event.
You bet.
Absolutely. All right, so let's just jump on in. And I always like starting off asking the vendors, basically the when, why, and how you got into camping itself, and then how and when that led into hammock camping.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a great question. For me, getting into camping, it goes back to when I was just a kid as a Boy Scout. I was always heavily involved in scouting. Had great scout leaders that took us camping, whether we wanted to or not. Didn't do a lot of winter camping until I was scoutmaster myself. But anyway, started out in scouting, did just normal camping trips, scout camps, and all that. As I went through scouting, and I loved backpacking, loved hiking, and just got into that. Did a lot of camping in tents, cowboy camping next to the fire. Didn't get into hammock camping until as an adult. I remember when I was a scout, I had from the old Army surplus. I had one of those old net hammocks, where if you turn over, your fingers are stuck in the nets, and
yep,
nose poking through. And anyway, that was about the experience. That was about the amount of hammock experience that I had back when I was a kid.
Okay.
As I was going through the scouting program, and like I said before, I just loved backpacking and getting out into the country that we have in the West. As a scout leader, I was taking a scout or a leadership training program, and I had a friend of mine who was doing a presentation on backpacking.
Okay.
And he starts pulling out all of his gear. He had an old Survey stove, that was just like from 1960 something. But then he had other, quality gear. I mean, not that wasn't quality gear. I mean, he still uses it.
Right.
But then he had, starts pulling out other cool gear, and he had tents and stuff that he was showing. It was just a kind of a show and tell for the people that were taking the training program. And I look over in the trees and I see this tarp, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And I had never seen the new parachute style hammocks. Okay. And he had this tarp over there with a 3-letter brand on, emblazoned across the tarp. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. What is that? And so he starts showing us the hammock, and I was hooked. I'm like, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen, with the,
like everybody knows that that's usually the one That's usually the one that everybody, starts off their hammock
It's the
journey
gateway
with.
drug.
It is the gateway drug. And I have a lot of people that are, that I'll be on the hammock forums and I'll see people knocking the Enos and,
right.
And, they're terrible. And I'm like, yeah, but at least it's getting people interested in it. And
exactly.
AJ
has said that before. AJ has said that before, that, they're not the best, best hammocks for camping. They're great for lounging. And that's why a lot of, college, students and stuff, they have them so they can take them out and lounge in them. But, it's a good start for, people if they're not sure, if they're going to stick with it. But
I think when a lot of
finally
us
upgrade
started
to, a better quality from, one of y'all, one of our vendors and everything. So
I think for a lot of us that started with the hammock camping, coming from somewhere that we had no kind of experience with it, how many of us came to embrace it because of that? So I'm very, I have, I started with an E&O and Eno, and I have spent an ungodly amount of money because of that, chasing other things that are better. But I can just think how much of our vendors have business because of the experience that they had with, the smaller versions. Also since hammock camping has come to the forefront of a lot of people's ideas about camping and hiking in general, there's so many more economical options now that are getting people into the idea of hammock camping that maybe weren't there even 5 years ago.
No, so, absolutely. Yeah. And, like 10 years ago when you just didn't have the choices of all the different cottage vendors. And I mean, you had, a few mainstream companies that are out there, one of them, but I mean, and without having the hangs, without having the options, I mean, obviously people are going to start with that. So no, I think it's awesome that people had that option to begin with, but it's so much better now that there's so many different options of quality gear, that's out there.
So kind of piggybacking off of some of your experiences and stuff. So I also grew up camping with Scouts. So how long were you in Scouts?
So, I mean, obviously started, Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and all that. So I have spent, my birthday is in July. And so I'm always up at Scout Camp on my birthday. I've spent more birthdays in 52 years at this Scout Camp than I have anywhere else collectively. So like 25, 30 birthdays at the Scout Camp.
Oh, okay.
So, 12 to 40 years of Scout training, Scout experience. So,
So did you make Eagle when you were in Scouts? Okay. Awesome.
Just barely. I mean, I was almost 18,
So I made it. I got my Eagle. I want to say it was 2 weeks before my 18th birthday. Nice. I had a buddy of mine. No joke. 3 hours.
Wow. And they don't tell you that there's like a 3-month grace period, but we won't talk about that.
What do you have to? Do you have to get your Eagles before you turn 18?
Before your 18th birthday.
18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So did you do OA as well?
Did that. It wasn't really my thing. I was on a Scout Camp staff, the same Scout Camp. Did the Scout Camp staff for 6 years, I believe. So.
And so the leadership thing that I'm assuming you're talking about Wood Badge?
Did Wood Badge. We did a National Youth Leadership Training, which follows the Wood Badge curriculum. Same curriculum basically for the kids.
Gotcha.
So,
and I think back on all the times of the miserable nights camping with the Scouts, and just think how much hammocks would have made that experience so much better.
Absolutely. I had one Scout camp. Well, let me back up. I had all my, because I was in a hammock, about 2014 was when I started fully diving into the hammock scene and using that with my, as a scout leader. And, one scout wants to try it. 2 scouts want to do it. Pretty soon there's, the whole camp out, the weekend camp out, whatever, everybody's hanging in hammocks, which was super cool to see, like 12, 15, 18 hammocks up in the trees. And,
right.
Anyway, that was pretty cool. But one scout camp, we had just crazy rain, and most of my scouts were in hammocks. And guess who was wet? Wasn't the hammock campers.
Nope.
So anyway,
so with you being kind of got your fingers on the heartbeat of like just scouting in general, do you see hammocks growing within the scouting community as a more viable option for camping, or is it still fringe-esque?
I think just like anything with the hammock world, I think it's kind of fringe-esque, like you say, because I mean, we're a different breed for sure. And it's not the normal thing that everybody's doing, pulling out their tent, pulling out the big giant pad, sleeping, just outside their car. So I think we're always going to be kind of the fringe. In scouting, it definitely is, but I think it's definitely picking up in, the amount of people that want to try it, want to do hammock camping. I think it's becoming a lot more popular. From a youth protection standpoint, I think it should be mandatory because you only have one person in a hammock, right? I mean, right. Yeah, there's 2-person hammocks, double nests, or whatever, but how many of you guys sleep with somebody else in your hammock?
Right.
That's not happening. That's a negative. Yeah. My wife, she's like, no, I'll take my own.
Somebody brought this up probably about a month or so ago. I know AJ and I had been talking, and we had been hearing that hammocks were not allowed to be used in the scouts because the scouts, this is what we were told. They couldn't be used in scouts because the scouts had to have like a buddy system. So they were always made to use a tent. And I just found out somebody sent me a message probably about a month or so ago and said that is not true. That's nowhere in their bylaws or whatever. But that some of the scoutmasters may try and say that, but it's right. Not a rule anywhere.
It's not written anywhere.
Yep.
And like I said, I think it should be encouraged to do the hammock camping because you can still have your buddy in the tree next to you. You can still do the patrol method, et cetera, et cetera. You can do the whole scouting program and not have to sleep side by side with your buddy.
Right.
I mean, I think that's just weird to think you got to be in the same, I mean, it's just asking for trouble, I think, but
right.
But anyway, no, luckily I had a good, our council here in, Southeast Idaho, and they were very pro hammock. They were very pro Scoutmaster, let you guys do your program the way you want to do it and
that's awesome.
Follow the rules. But
right, sure.
They were very supportive of, I mean, you go to the scout camps and there's more hammocks than tents. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, all right. So your first hammock, you said, was the Eno?
Yes.
Okay. So how long did you have that before you decided to upgrade? And then what did you upgrade to?
So that's the funny thing. So that was in about 2012, 2013. I got that one. And I was like, okay, I'm going full bore into this. I need to get a tarp. I need to get, quilts, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, I was too cheap to buy good gear because I'm like, I'm also good at sewing. Back in college, I worked at a backpack manufacturing company in the college town that I lived in, and I cut all their fabric for their backpacks. And so I was a little bit cocky because I'm like, I can run these machines. I can sew. My grandpa was a tailor. My mom taught me how to sew, and I'll make my own stuff. So I made a tarp.
Okay.
Still had the, the off-brand hammock. And I'm like, wow. First time I put my pad in my hammock, I had a blow up pad. I didn't know that I was supposed to let some of the air out. And, anyway, get in there. And within about 10 minutes, the pad is on top of me. And I'm like, well, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. So I'm like, okay, how do I insulate myself without this stupid pad sleeping on top of me? And I, found out about underquilts. Right. So I'm like, well, I'll make an underquilt. And during that time, during that year, I'm like, I'm going to get a company name so that I can get fabrics and stuff, a wholesale cost, whatever.
Right.
And so I got, registered with the state of Idaho and got Teton Hammock Company and had never built a hammock, still sleeping in that off-brand hammock. Okay. But I had a nice tarp and I had a nice quilt that I built. And so I was on a camp out one time, and let me back up. My son, so I'm about 5'8". Now that I'm older, I'll say I'm 5'8". Okay. And my oldest son is 6'4". And he's like, Dad, can you make me a hammock? And I'm like, sure, I can make you a hammock, but and I didn't know that there was like an industry standard, like 11 foot was like, you got to be 11 feet on these cottage hammocks. I'm like, you're tall. Let's make you an 11-foot hammock. So I made him an 11-foot hammock. And I took it on a camp out one time. I'm like, what the heck am I sleeping in this other, it's not even my brand. Why am I sleeping in this stupid hammock? Because it was the best night's sleep, in a properly sized hammock. Anyway, so that was kind of how I got into, so I upgraded to a Teton Hammock Company hammock. So how's that? So, yeah.
So, okay. And that's you. So your first ones were made for you and your son. So what made you decide to start making them and selling them at that point? Did you have people seeing them and asking you about them, or okay?
Yeah. So with the different scouting things, the different leadership programs that we were doing, and working with the same people over and over, and the hammock scene was starting to just pick up here in Idaho, and people are like, hey, I need a hammock. And I'm like, well, I'll build you a hammock, and I need a tarp. So just kind of word of mouth in the scouting program. And then I'm like, well, I need to get a website. And now I've got stuff that's been to Canada and Pakistan and all over your guys' area down there. I don't know what it is with down there, awesome. But I've shipped more stuff to the southern states than anywhere else collectively. So anyway, it's pretty cool.
So on your website, so you offer hammocks, you offer tarps, and you offer quilts, correct?
Correct. And just random accessories, suspension, anything else you might need.
Awesome. So what's your favorite piece of gear to make?
My favorite piece of gear to make would probably be the Backwoods Pro, which is our netted hammock. It's challenging, but it's not so hard that it takes me like a week. Like if you look on my table back there, that blue pile is a quilt that I'm just getting ready to stick the unicorn fur in. So quilts suck. I hate making quilts. No, they're fun to make, but they're super time consuming. If I could make money making a quilt, they'd be a lot of fun to make. Tarps are fun to make. They're kind of a no-brainer. It's pretty easy to make a tarp. But yeah, I would say the Backwoods Pro, the netted hammock.
That's the one you sent that you donated to HangCon, isn't it?
Yes.
Was that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I actually, I'll admit it. Whenever it got here, I did set it up here in my room.
Nice.
To try, and it's very, very comfortable. I actually called AJ right after, and I was like, AJ, I'm laying in the one of Mark's hammocks here, and I'm gonna have to be ordering one here soon.
You only need one more hammock from what you already have. Just one more.
Just one more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just very, very comfortable. Very well made.
Appreciate
very
that.
Well made. I looked at the stitching and everything.
So let's talk about like your design process and what has gone into kind of the evolution of your product over time.
So I had a friend ask me one time, he's like, what makes yours unique or, innovative? And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. And besides, how do you get more innovative on a gathered end hammock? I mean, it's a tablecloth with, you know, I mean, it's kind of hard to be super innovative. And also I'm building everything by myself. If you look in my shop here, it's me. I mean, you're talking to the whole company. My son and daughter-in-law, they do some marketing stuff for us, but, as far as design and production, it's, I'm building it all here in the basement. So I don't have time to do like kitschy little, I don't know, shelves and even a ridgeline organizer is just more, I mean, you can buy them cheaper off of other websites. So I just don't have time to, have time to do that. I mean, I can build them certainly.
Right.
So my whole goal is to take, you know, what people need, what they, you know, shelter, the quilts, the bed, the hammock, and just build it better. And so, you know, in the places that we're camping, I mean, you can be at, you know, just under tree line, you know, just under 10,000 feet. And if a rainstorm comes in the middle of summer, it's dangerous if you don't have the right gear. I mean, you're talking hypothermia and death. So, Tetons they're not forgiving. You know, you get hypothermia and you wander off, you fall 3,000 feet straight down. So, you know, it's making the quality gear, making it so that it can withstand those conditions. Our rain doesn't fall straight down. Rain is usually falling horizontal because of the wind, you know? So, So anyway, that's kind of my goal is just to take products that, the customers need and just build them just better than anybody else.
Okay. So what type of fabrics and stuff are you using for your hammocks and tarps and quilts?
Everybody uses the same fabrics. There's two main suppliers. Can I say their names online?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get all my fabric either from Dutchware Gear or from Ripstop by the roll.
Yeah.
And all of the hammock fabric is going to be a 1.6 ounce fabric. Cause that's, again, I don't go with different weights of fabrics. I don't go with the ultra light stuff. You know, I mean, these are light enough. And if somebody wants to shave off, I saw some guy, he wanted to cut off, I can't even remember what it was. They wanted to cut their hammock down or get a shorter hammock. And I'm like, okay, you realize going from, you know, 10.5 feet or from 11 feet to 9 feet, that 2 feet that you're losing, or 10.5 feet to 9, I can't remember what the math was, but it was like an ounce. And I'm just like, I'm not into losing that much comfort for an ounce. It's just not worth it to me. So along with, you know, trying to keep everything simple, I just pick the one fabric style. I don't do other, you know, 1.0 ounces. I don't do the 1.7s or, you know, anything else. It's just the 1.6, either from Dutch or from Ripstop. Okay. So I actually really like Dutch's Hexon fabric. It has a 350 pound weight limit or weight rating versus lower ratings on other fabrics. Right. All of my tarps are 1.1 ounce sill poly. I don't even do the sill nylon anymore because, you know, the stretches when it's wet, theory or fact, you know. So, and then quilts I've used a lot of different quilt fabrics, but I really like Dutch's can't remember what it's called. Argon, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's like the 0.9 ounce. Mm-hmm. It's still super light. It makes the quilt is just crazy light, but it's still super durable. Right. So.
And I was looking on your website. You use 950 fill power for your down quilts.
If you order it, I'll make a 950, but I hate the fabric that you have to use for it. So
anyway. Gotcha.
Because if you're going to use a different fabric,
if you're going to spend that much money on 950 fill, so you're looking at per pound. The down for 850 is probably, for me, it's about $160 a pound. Okay. And for the 950, it's over $200 a pound.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And so it's just, and then the fabric is more, I use like a 0.56 fabric because I mean, you're not going to put the 950 in the 1 ounce fabric. It's just I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm just not going to do that. So if you want to save 6 or 8 ounces on a quilt, I'll certainly make the 950. It's just, I don't like working with it. So
gotcha.
Anyway.
I can imagine it being a lot more, with it lighter, being a lot more loofy and flying everywhere. And
it's just, well, yeah, the down is definitely, well, and actually I didn't really notice a whole lot of difference in the plumes for the 950 versus the 850. So I'm just like, I don't know. To me, it's kind of one of those, I don't know. I'm going to make some of the quilt guys mad, but I just didn't see the benefit to go to the 950. So
gotcha. I mean, plus with a lot of technology and the coatings and stuff they use for the 850 now, it's really water resistant and things like that.
Yeah.
That's something I've kind of evolved a little, even just this year. I'm really, really liking more and more of my down stuff. The more and more that I get in, I do a little DIY myself, and I've just concluded that if I need a quilt, I will pay someone to do it.
It's so much work.
Yeah, it really is.
Work.
I've thought about trying to make one, but
you should.
It's like every time I think about it, it's like, I don't even know where to start. And I know how this thing is going to turn out. It is going to be the most hideous looking, unfunctional
that's
piece
okay.
of,
that's okay. You should do it.
Conglomeration ever.
You should do it so you know the process. That's one of the things that again, you get on the forums or the different Facebook pages, whatever, and people are
right.
You were talking, I can't remember if it was Danny that you were talking to or this last week's podcast, but talking about how expensive things are, and it's like, why is this tarp $200? It's like, well, make it and you'll understand.
Yeah,
or,
absolutely.
Why is this quilt $450? And it's like, well, I've got $200 worth of down in it, to make it and see what it is. But Paul, I think you should definitely make one, and we'll see it at HangCon.
I might try it one day.
Yeah.
All right, Paul,
it's actually a lot of fun.
I'm going to get a down pillow. I'm going to come over to your house. I'm going to shred it and just fluff it everywhere, and I'll see if you still want to do a down quilt.
I can do it without any mess.
That's amazing. But me or Paul could not.
My wife would probably hate me.
You don't touch it with your hands.
I'd probably be looking like one of those old cartoons where
tarred and feathered.
Yeah. Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, I've made one quilt, and that was it was one of those Costco down throw kind of kind of Franken quilt kind of thing. I've also made one tarp. Now I've gotten a little bit better with sewing some of the sil nylon fabrics and stuff like that, but that first one I was just like, you know what, I'll pay someone to do it. And that's another, you made a really good point of how expensive things are. None of our vendors are getting, you're not making $400 off a $400 quilt. The materials alone are a significant cost in that, plus your time and things like that. I completely agree. I think you made a great point. If you want to complain about how expensive something is, you make that piece of gear first and see if you determine that it's still expensive.
Just buy the materials. Just buy the materials, and then yeah, exactly.
Especially if you're buying stuff for I don't think people quite realize just how expensive down is. And if you're going to make a quilt, you're going to use lighter weight fabrics, and buy the thread, buy the netting for your baffles, buy the ultralight fabrics or the lighter fabrics for the top and the bottom, buy the all these little components that you need for one project. It really adds up.
And then keep up with the time that it takes you to do it.
Yeah.
I don't even count the time.
It makes him sad.
Not on the quilts. Yeah, it makes me sad. So I'll have to borrow some of those edibles from you.
What does your setup now consist of? What is your hammock, your quilt? I'm assuming it's all your own gear. So which hammock is it? Which quilts and all that stuff?
So if I have trees, it's all my own gear. I'm going to put in a shameless plug for my friends at Yobo. But if I don't have trees, I'm going to use a cricket stand, because it is just amazing.
We do love ours as well.
They are.
You're gonna get
amazing.
you one of the hives? Have you seen the hive?
I've seen the hive. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what Kristen does. So anyway, but anyway, so with the exception of Yobo's cricket stand, everything is mine, built here in the shop. I base with my Backwoods Pro netted hammock. It's an 11-foot hammock, gathered in hammock. Zips all the way around. The net doesn't come off. It just retracts all the way back.
Okay.
I honestly never take the net off, I use the net all year round.
Yeah.
In
Florida,
the winter,
we do too.
Same here.
Yeah. In the winter here, I use it just because it kind of keeps some heat in and keeps some of the wind off. Quilts, I have my Cumulus line quilts. They're the 850 fill, the 1 ounce fabrics. And then my tarp is a 12-foot ridge line. I use my mind just went totally blank. Anyway, 4-season quilt with the doors fold up. Just your basic hex style quilt, cat cuts all the way around. So, or not quilt, tarp. Yeah.
Tarp. Yeah, that was a crux for me.
Rain fly. There we go. Yeah.
that was the crux for me when I was another issue that I had with the tarp was figuring out and sewing the cat cuts. I just like, nope. Piece of cake.
I don't roll those cat cut. They some companies they'll roll the edges. Mm-hmm. I finish them with grow grain because it's easier, and 2, it looks better. I think it makes a nice frame around the kind of a solid frame around the bottom of the tarp.
Yeah, I agree. I think it looks really, really nice. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not a hiker. So weight isn't a huge issue for me, but I agree. I think it looks really nice.
Even being a hiker though, like I've said before, on a couple of the other episodes, even as a hiker, I'm not one of the gram weenies. I do try and, get lighter stuff because the older I get, of course, but I'm not going to sacrifice my comfort like some of these people do just to save a couple of ounces.
But I think I weighed the grow grain one time. I can't remember how many feet I use per tarp, but it was like 1.5 ounces. And I'm like, okay, this is stupid, because when you're trying to roll those, a 6-foot catenary cut that, goes up in, 5-6 inches, you just can't roll that and sew it to have it to make it look good. I don't know how people would do it. So it just looks better, I think. So looks more finished and professional. So there's a shameless plug for the Summit Tarp from the Teton Hammock Company. This episode brought to you by.
So speaking of like your camping and your gear and things like that. So what is your favorite time of year to go camping?
Oh, absolutely fall. There's no, I don't even have to think about that here in the Intermountain West. Fall is just amazing. Daytime temperatures of 70 degrees and the Quakies are all yellow and, so September, October-ish, it's anytime later than October, it starts to get, you're pushing the weather, but,
so September is nice.
September,
to go camping
if you want to, if you want to come to Grand Teton National Park in early to mid September, sometimes late September, you can't find any place better. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, you come here in September and try and go out and camp.
You die.
It's terrible.
No, it's
terrible.
40 degrees at night and 70 in the day, and just dry air.
About 85 at night, 112 during the day.
You can keep that crap.
300% humidity. We actually evolved gills to breathe over the summer months.
I've lived in Houston. I know how that goes. So,
Okay, so while you're out camping and things like that, either backpacking or just car camping, what is your favorite camp meal to have?
Ooh, favorite camp meal. I think if I'm car camping, I got into some Dutch oven stuff with my scouts, and it was a lot of fun to make Dutch oven lasagna. And then I had like another Dutch oven with Dutch oven pizza. It was kind of an Italian theme going on. And then like pull apart garlic bread. So, all in the Dutch oven.
Oh, nice.
You can't beat the Dutch oven cooking.
What's that?
So you can't beat Dutch oven cooking.
I mean, doesn't matter what you throw in, it's going to come out tasting good. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely want to get more experience with. I did a little bit of Dutch oven, like in with scouts as well, but we mainly it was focused to like peach cobbler, right? Which is amazing in the Dutch oven, by the way. I'm not knocking that at all, but like that, we didn't really expand past like your desserts,
right? No, and I think with backpacking, especially when we're up in the Tetons on the Teton Crest Trail. I think probably our favorite was, I want to say just mashed potatoes with like dried meat that you can throw in. I mean, even beef jerky thrown in and kind of reconstituted, I guess. Trying to think what we had that was, I'm not above ramen. I'm okay with ramen. So,
Yeah. It's not broke. Don't fix it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
Gotcha. So, you talked about Grand Teton National Park, which is, as our listeners know, it's one of my favorite places in the world. But if you could hang anywhere in the world, or what is the most amazing place that you've ever hung?
I'm going to answer both questions there. If I could hang any place in the world, it's going to be in Italy. I don't care where, just anywhere in Italy, I'll hang a hammock and I'm fine there. Probably the coolest hang that I did. And it was a little bit sketchy, but my family and I were traveling in Paris, and we were just down from, Trocadero Square, and I'm butchering the pronunciation, but anyway, Eiffel Tower in the background. I'm like, okay, I've got to have a photo of a hammock with the Eiffel Tower in the background. So
there you go.
I looked around and I see all the French police standing around. I'm like, I don't know if this is legal or not. I don't know what their rules are. I don't speak French very well. So I hurried and hung up a hammock and laid there for long enough to take a picture and say that I hung my hammock in Paris. So.
Oh, very nice. Very
and
nice.
Did not get arrested.
Yeah. Say that again.
And did not get arrested.
Did not get arrested, but I took it down really quick too. So.
So what part of Italy do you really, really like?
Any of it. We've traveled all of it. I haven't been down to Sicily, but Naples all the way up north. Been over there about 4 times. So
okay, awesome.
Okay.
Love Italy.
Yeah, I was there in 99, so it's been a minute. But I like you said, Naples are awesome. Rome was incredible. Florence was really cool. This is going to be another thing that I'm probably going to hate some. I think Venice is the most disgusting, overrated thing in Italy.
See, I'm a photographer.
Everywhere.
Yeah. I'm a photographer. So Venice was overwhelming, but in a good way, because you couldn't run out of subjects to photograph. But I know what you're saying. It could be kind of icky there. So.
The one exception was San Marco's Cathedral in the San Marco Square there. That was possibly some of the prettiest churches that I saw in Italy, and but the rest of Venice is just nasty.
Well, when you go in San Marco, it's you're literally breathing gold because everything is gilded with gold, so it's gold dust in the air. Yeah. So it's
really, really cool.
It's gotta be good for the lungs.
We're gonna squeeze you out when you get back. Just oh my goodness. All right, so one of the random questions that we have is if you could have a perfect concert lineup, who would be your main act and who would be your 2 opening acts?
Wow. So main act, I would kill to see Journey, real Journey, with Steve Perry, lead vocals. Okay. Not this fake stuff that sounds like Steve Perry. Opening acts, I don't know. Just throw Freddie Mercury in there too. Let's get Queen to open for him. I'm dating myself here. You can tell I'm born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s. So
best times.
Let's throw a a new one in there that you've probably never heard of, but it's called VHS Collection. Good stuff. Kind of got an 80s vibe, but guys about our age. I'm going to say our age. So there, you know.
Gotcha. Good deal.
AJ's younger, huh?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. All right. So what, so you've been a few nights in a hammock, I would say so. So
Couple.
What's been your scariest night in a hammock or most eventful?
I can't tell the eventful story. Come on. It's a family show. So we all know that's crap, right?
Right.
So probably the scariest night that I had in a hammock, I'd taken my 2 older boys and my daughter and my wife, and we were doing the Teton Crest Trail. And the trail is just amazing. We took the tram, Jackson Hole Ski Resort tram, up to the top, up to the trail, which is awesome because it cuts out 4,300 vertical feet of hiking, and you're just on the trail. Okay. But anyway, so second night of that trip, we were on our permit. We were supposed to camp on Death Canyon Shelf. So that tells you what it's about. You know, I mean, you're literally, I mean, if you walk off the shelf, you're falling about 2,000 or 3,000 feet straight down.
Minor details.
Minor details. But the way the weather is up there, when a thunderstorm comes in, I mean, and AJ, you've seen the Tetons. I mean, it goes, you see the base of the Tetons at about 7,000 feet, and they go up to almost 14,000 feet. And you see that whole mountain range. So you see the mountains, but you don't see the clouds coming from the southwest that are coming over those mountains. So, I mean, if a big thunderstorm's coming, you really don't know unless you've been watching the weather, which you should. Anyway, so we were supposed to camp on Death Canyon Shelf, and we knew that the weather was going to be bad and rainy. And we're like, you know what? It's September. Our permit is up on the shelf, but we're going to take one of the campsites down in Death Canyon. So, because we were going out Death Canyon anyway, and so we went down there to set up our camp. And anyway, so we set up, and it starts raining, and it rained literally all night and all the next day. We hiked out about 12 miles in the rain, which, you know, it is what it is. But the scary part was down in the valley, down in where I live in Idaho, about 60 or 80 miles away, they had about, I think it was 400 or 500 lightning strikes just in the town. And that's not common. I mean, it was just crazy amount of lightning. Well, the way the prevailing winds go, that storm went from there, and then it went over into the Teton Range. And so we got hit with that same storm. And so it was, here you are at about 9,000 foot elevation. It's raining. You're wet. We weren't wet in our hammocks. My wife, her tent was floating. I felt so bad. She didn't camp in a tent after that, but anyway, so it was raining the whole night, but it was the lightning that was just scary, because you're at that elevation. I mean, you don't see the lightning. It's not hitting around you. You're actually in the clouds that the lightning is in. So, I mean, you can feel the lightning. You can feel the hair stands up on your neck. I mean, you feel it buzzing, you smell the ozone. I mean, it's pretty creepy. So, and nobody's coming to get you. Harrison Ford, he's on the other side of the mountains with his helicopter. He's not flying, and that's going to pick you up.
He's not coming.
He is not coming. So that was probably the sketchiest trip, but it was one of our most memorable too. I mean, it was pretty cool.
I'm sure, like, when you get around a campfire and stuff, that story tends to come up. Hey, remember that time we almost died in the Grand Tetons?
Exactly. Yeah. That wasn't the only time.
So have you had any issues with like wildlife out your area? Because, I mean, granted, where we're at in the Ocala National Forest is the highest concentration of black bear in the world. However, our bears are like large dogs,
right,
as far as like size. Your bears are significantly different.
They're a little bit different, yeah. So in Grand Teton National Park and then Yellowstone, which is they border each other. And the wildlife travels back and forth through those two parks. We have a number of black bears, and then obviously grizzly bears in Grand Teton and Yellowstone, which I've seen, in our campsite. Moose, there's moose that, I wouldn't rather see or come upon a bear than a moose, but more people are killed by moose than bear, I think. So
anyway. I think a lot of people, especially here in the East Coast, they don't really grasp the concept of how big a moose really is.
Well, if you think of a big horse, how tall is a big horse? I don't know how many hands they are tall, but the moose is significantly bigger than that big horse.
Right.
We have elk up there, but they're not
like
too bad.
Big dumb cows too.
They're big, mean, dumb cows. They're
yeah.
Especially
that's what I've heard.
Yeah, they're dangerous. I would stay away from the moose. We have mountain lions up there. Wolves. Yeah, it's
so what are you most leery of when you're out camping?
Snakes.
I mean,
snakes.
So out of the
that's
bears,
why I'm never coming down here.
the panthers and the snakes and everything else, it's snakes.
Probably the bears.
Okay.
There are cats, and the cats bug me because they're just sneaky,
right?
And they're hunting you. The bears
right.
they're just big and dumb, and they're like, okay, I'm going to come eat you. But I think the cats they're trying to get you. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to describe it.
Right.
But the cats are they kind of spook me out, kind of freak me out. Probably the grizzly bears are the most. Yeah. I haven't seen any wolves, even though I know they're out there, but I don't worry too much about them. They're more up in Yellowstone, I think, but.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was going to say, if I was camping out that way, it would probably take me a good couple of nights before I was able to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Because I'd be, every little sound would be one of the grizzly bears or something.
Right
outside.
And it's usually some stupid squirrel throwing pine cones on you.
Of course, yeah. That sounds like a 10,000 pound bear, yeah.
Right.
I remember we didn't see a grizzly till we got out to Glacier. We saw a huge black bear or brown bear when we were in Yellowstone. But I'll never remember when we saw the grizzly in Glacier. He was probably a good 200 yards away, but there was a guy getting out of his truck to walk closer to the grizzly bear. And by that point in the trip, I'm done with people. You're just rooting for the wildlife. You're like, come on, let's show Henry
take
how fast Darwin
take this hamburger and see. Yeah.
Just go up there and pet it. It won't hurt you at all. Yeah. Or how fast that grizzly.
I like to be scratched behind the ears.
Yeah. That grizzly could have cleared that 200 yards a lot faster than his fat butt could get back in his truck.
I think they run.
So are grizzlies aggressive? Are grizzlies aggressive or?
I think just like any wildlife, I think any of them are going to be aggressive if you're stupid. So it's, I talk about the cats and, they seem like that they're actively trying to hunt you down, but I don't know that the bears necessarily are, but, as far as being aggressive, I think if you're smart and if you have a clean campsite, you're not trying to do something stupid by, like petting the moose or the deer or whatever.
Please do.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Let's let Darwin take its course.
Amen. But, I don't think that they're necessarily being aggressive unless they've been in a campsite or they've been in a trash can and they become accustomed to, easy food.
Okay.
Then they're
so
going to be.
They're really no more aggressive than like the black bear or anything.
Just significantly larger.
They're just big and they'll eat you.
More intimidating.
So, yeah.
One of the cool things when we were in Yellowstone, my family went to like this bear refuge, and it was like one of the few places in the world that if let's say Ursac or something was coming out with a new product, they would send it to this facility and they would test out how bear proof something is, like a bear container or a trash can or, some sort of anti-bear gimmick.
Really?
And so they would go in and they had these grizzly bears and these two huge black bears and brown bears, and they would just test out stuff to see if they could get in. And that was, if they passed the test, it was like a big seal of approval for this company. So that was pretty cool.
I think that's up in West Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
It was
cool.
really cool. It's one of the few really cool things that I saw in Yellowstone. So
yeah, you said you didn't like Yellowstone, and
it's
no mountains there, but
I mean,
you get like 3 million people going through there, and the tour buses, and they all stop to see the squirrel in the middle of the road. And I used to work where I had to drive from Wyoming to Idaho, and going through Yellowstone technically would have been quicker, but I always got stuck behind a bunch of stupid tourists that were trying to pet the grizzly bear. Yeah. So,
or they stopped for by that point, elk were just like white-tailed deer out here. I was just like, all right, it's an elk. Let's move on. It's a bison. Let's move on.
Right.
See, I think I'd be the same way as AJ, because, anytime you see anything, about Visit Yellowstone or anything like that on TV, it's all the wilderness and all that. And then, I talked to AJ, of course, whenever he got back out there, from out there, and it's like, he gets there, and it's like,
I mean, there is a lot of stuff out there to do and stuff, but it's a lot of people. It is a lot of people.
It's a ton of people, and it depends on the time of year that you go. And
usually you go to the wilderness to get away from people.
And Yellowstone, I mean, it's where it's the first national park, and I mean, it's world renowned. I mean, everybody knows about Yellowstone, and so I mean, you're going to get it's on everybody's bucket list, and as it should be. I think you should go and see Old Faithful, because it's highly. I know AJ didn't like.
I mean, once you see one, you see them all. It smells like sulfur. It gets shot up. Whatever.
You have to go and see everything, and it's cool to see. But if you can get into the backcountry in Yellowstone, there's cool places to see there. But it is definitely a drive-through, and drive-through and look kind of park.
Yeah, and it's massive. Like, you're driving for a couple hours just to drive around the park. When we went, they had just had the big flooding there, so the north end of the park was completely closed, so we didn't even see that part. But I would say the Grand Prismatic is stupid sweet. I mean, that was really nice, and the Upper and Lower Falls, they were cool.
Yeah,
the steam pots, cool, I guess. I mean, whatever. Colors.
I like Yellowstone. It's not. I'll go up there once a year, but yeah.
I mean, just for me, like when you compare it to a significantly smaller park like Grand Tetons, which like blew me away, like the whole thing. Like you were talking about how it goes. You have the lake, then the mountains just shoot straight up. There are no foothills whatsoever. It was just mind-blowing to me, coming from, I mean, even the Rockies. You see a lot of that too, but out west, or out here east, my wife says, oh, the Appalachians are just big hills. Well, comparatively, she's not completely wrong. However, they're my mountains. So, but it's just something completely different. And even the pictures that you can get, just the scope of just how massive these things are and how small and tiny they make you feel.
No, absolutely. Wait till you're standing up on top of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get there eventually.
Come out. We'll do the Teton Crest Trail. It's only 39.5 miles from one end to the other. So.
All right. We can do it over 30 days, right?
That'll be a week trip for AJ. 5 miles a day.
That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing.
No shame. Sloth hiking team right here. We'll get there when we get there. Oh, Lord.
That's funny.
All right. So what would be one thing that completely ruins a night in the hammock for you? And I'll say that with a caveat. The worst night that I've ever spent in the hammock was still better than the best night that I've ever slept in a tent. But
for sure.
What is one thing that just really grinds your gears as far as something not going right, or the weather not being correct? Or
I'm a pansy. I don't like to be cold. So if I have a cold spot and I can't figure out why my quilt's not adjusted right. Or, something to that effect. If I feel even the slightest bit cold, that's where I'm growling about it. So.
Gotcha.
Just don't like to be cold.
So, let's see. What has been one purchase that you've made that's probably had the biggest impact on your hammock life or your business life or just your camping life in general?
Oh, wow. I'm going to say this is going to be kind of interesting, but I think one of not the biggest impact, but it was probably one of the coolest little purchases that I did. There's a company out of Wyoming called Brunton. And I don't even know what they make anymore, but years ago, 10, 15 years ago, they made a little gas lantern, and it didn't have a glass globe around it. It actually had like a metal screen, but it was used like a Coleman, the mantle. Mm-hmm. It's like a real mantle, anyway. It was just the coolest little piece of gear, and it was small enough that you take it backpacking, it weighs a couple ounces, but it's so nice to be able to fire that up and especially when you're way deep in the backcountry and actually have some real light. I'm not a big campfire person, so unless it's winter and we have to have fire to survive and be warm, I usually don't build a campfire. So this was kind of nice to have just as a little comfort item to, have that same kind of feel around the fire. So.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Unless I'm with a bunch of people, I don't worry about a campfire either.
Yeah, I mean, very seldom do we do one out at Sertoma. I mean, every once in a while we do, but
I think when there's like
that's
more
usually
than
when somebody else wants to do it.
Yeah.
Do what?
Or I have kids to go get firewood that I don't want to get.
Yeah.
Right. I just don't like smelling like smoke unless I'm cooking a brisket or something.
I don't mind. It's like cologne. So, so you mentioned that you and your family do a lot of like international traveling and things like that. Do you have any big trips that you've got planned, or what's your next big adventure to do, either solo or with your family?
So nothing planned internationally, although the next time we do go on an international trip, my wife really wants to go to Greece. I'm obsessed with Italy, so we always fly into Milan and then take the train from there wherever we're going to go. So I would probably fly into there and then take the train all the way down to Sicily and then take a ferry across to Greece. And then from there, I don't know, my oldest son lived in Russia. I'd love to go visit Russia and see what that's like. He was actually there, him and his wife, last year. They had to leave when the war started. My second son lived in France and Switzerland, and I've been there, but I would love to go back there. So that would be definitely on the bucket list to go anywhere in Europe. I'm down for that.
Okay.
Locally, I would love to come back to your guys' neck of the woods, not Florida, because there's too many snakes and alligators and crap. But
we're the Australia of America.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know the last time I've seen an alligator, to be honest with you.
I don't even mind those. It's the stupid snakes. You can keep the water moccasins and all that crap. But no, I'd like to come.
The last snake that I saw was a black racer, and that was in a picture that our son sent us the other day, and that was it. I haven't seen a rattlesnake in years.
You can keep them. No, I'd like to come back and do the AT sometime, or even sections of it. I'd love to come back. I've never been to the East Coast other than like Jersey and New York, and that doesn't count. So.
Trash cities.
Have you done any of the AT?
No.
Okay.
No, never been on it. Never been there. So
I've hiked the entire width of the AT.
Nice. So I did a section hike of the PCT a couple of years ago, and it's in Cascade Locks.
Yeah.
And they have a little festival, kind of like the trail days at Damascus. Anyway.
Yeah.
And there's a bridge that goes across the Columbia River. It's called the Bridge of the Gods. And that was my section hike. I walked from Oregon to Washington and back again across the bridge.
That's towards the end of the trail, isn't it?
I think there's like 500 miles left at that point.
After the bridge of the gods. Okay.
You're basically going through Washington up into Canada. So
gotcha. Yeah. That trail's on my bucket list to do.
So walking the width of the AT, that's
now that
he's done the width. I have done the length.
Now just thought about this. I am one hike away from a triple crown of width. I've also hiked the entire width of the CDT.
Nice.
So the PCT, here I'm coming. Triple crown, Paul. Beat that. You and your AT through hike.
I'm not quite sure that would count the same way.
No, I'm pretty sure it does.
Everybody I said that I did this, they're like, I've done a section, and they're like, yeah, that counts. So walked across the bridge.
A whole width. The whole width. And about like 500 yards.
I'm gonna have you a shirt made up with that.
Triple crown.
The triple crown
width.
Triple crown width.
It's not long, but it sure is wide. Huh?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I'll have one more question, then I'll hand it over to Paul. So what is one thing that you are deeply grateful for right now?
One thing I'm deeply grateful for right now, I would say my wife and her patience with this little company that I'm trying to get going. So
gotcha.
Wife and family. How's that?
All right. I'll take it. I will take it.
Does your wife hammock camp with you now? Because I know you said that earlier about
she won't go out in the winter.
Out.
Yeah, she won't go out in the winter. But she's spent several nights in a hammock. I have to set it up for her, but that's okay.
So what's your like limit as far as temperature that you personally are going to go out in?
I've been down to minus 25, and I felt that was pretty amazing. And I was listening to Danny talk about 38 below, and I'm like, oh. So anyway,
no, that's a negative.
I would try it one night just to see.
It's interesting
just to experience it.
All the fabric starts to crinkle, and it sounds like it's going to break. Like your puffy coats, they're like, it sounds like cellophane. It's like, just crinkling.
Really?
And it's amazing when it gets, below, I'll say about 5 or 10 below zero, all the fabrics start feeling weird and acting weird. But, no, it's fun. I love camping in the winter. If I can stay dry, I stay warmer than, I hate camping in the rain. You can keep the rain. I'll keep the snow.
Do you use a hot tent whenever you go winter camping?
No, I've never done that.
No, okay.
Being a scouter, I have a real problem with the hot tents because no flames in tents, and so I've just never.
That makes sense.
It's just never been something I felt I could do, and I don't know. Again, it's one of those things. It's like I'll let whatever the companies are that are building the hot tents build them, and they seem heavy, and I don't know. Again, I don't like smelling like smoke, so no.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Mark on this. Like, just the fire and the tent, it just doesn't seem like a pro-life choice.
Yeah, no.
There's so many aspects of that, not just the temperature and the outside, but so much that could kill you.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing some of your pro-life choices that you make too.
There's that.
You've started riding a bike where your head's like bumper level to the people driving here in Florida.
It's all great.
I mean, come on.
If I get hit, I won't know it. Oh my goodness.
So that was all your questions, AJ?
That was all mine.
Okay. Well, I pretty much just have one more, which is the one I always finish off with all of our vendors and whatnot. And that is, what are your top 3 tips that you would give to somebody that is new, just starting off into hammock camping?
Top 3. You're going to have to count these off because I may ramble and forget how many I've done. Fine. All right. I think number 1 is don't give up. Your first night is probably not going to work like you think it's going to. I would give it time, to dial in your gear and figure out what kind of gear you need. So number 1, don't give up. Number 2, make sure you have good quality gear. Thanks, AJ. Good quality gear. Not saying that cheap Walmart gear won't work, but I just don't see the sense in spending money on something. I mean, if you're only going to go once, then whatever. But if you're already an experienced backpacker and you already have thousands of dollars worth of gear in your gear closet, like 1, 2, 3, 4 backpacks I see hanging up.
Oh, that's a lightweight.
But I mean, get good quality gear, because I mean, honestly, your life could depend on it. So, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, that sounds kind of cliche and trite, whatever, but again, in the type of country that I'm camping in, your life truly does depend on your gear.
Right.
So good quality gear. What are we at, AJ? 3. Don't take yourself too seriously and just have fun with it. I mean, it's camping. It's not post-apocalyptic survival. I mean, just go have fun and enjoy the outdoors.
Absolutely.
So,
I do have another, I guess, question that I just thought about off the top of my head. So we've talked about like hammock camping is, really big here in the East Coast. And I was kind of having this conversation with our guest last week. Why do you think there's not as many hangs happening in your side of the country that it is on the East Coast? Because a lot of people say, oh, there's not a lot of trees out west, this and the other, but they're really it. Like I go out there and I go, why aren't more people going out here? It's absolutely incredible. As far as like the land, is there like issues in like, I know you're in Idaho, like what is the regulations, or is it just a culture kind of thing? So why do you think the hang community isn't as active in your neck of the woods?
I've pondered that myself, and listening to that podcast, you were talking to him about that as well. And so I was kind of anticipating that and thinking about it. And I don't know that I have a real good answer, but I mean, there's certainly enough trees here. There's certainly enough people. There's people that are getting into hammock camping. I think it's just that the wave of the hammock movement, so to speak, probably started back on the East Coast, and it's just getting here. So I think it's just lack of education, and people just they just don't know about it enough. Lack of education and experience with it. At PCT days up in Oregon, I'm the only hammock vendor there.
Really?
And he's like, yeah, I would love to have you come, because, we don't have any other, and everybody's coming through, and they've got their little, their 1-person Dyneema tents, which, we didn't even talk about Dyneema, but that's a whole nother.
Right.
And I don't know why, because there's so many places to use a hammock. I don't know why it's not more popular, other than it's probably just hasn't caught on like it has back east. I mean, when you have, how many people do the AT every year? I mean, thousands.
Roughly 3,000.
3,000.
Roughly 3,000.
And PCT, I don't know how many did that, but there were, I don't know, probably a third of that, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I think it's just becoming more popular. And again, like, the trail names I didn't even know what a trail name was until, started going down this rabbit hole, because it just wasn't a thing here, So I think as time goes on, I think those hangs will come further west. We had our first annual Teton Hammock Company winter hang last year, and there was 5 of us there, 4 of us, me and my son and daughter-in-law and a friend, but
hey, that's a
still
start.
Counts, right?
Yeah,
it's a start.
Absolutely.
Right.
So if anybody wants to come do a winter hang, we'll do it in the middle of winter. I'll just say that we had about 800 inches of snow this year. No exaggeration. That's 66 feet. So come hang with us. It'll be fun.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, before we get off here, how can people find you? You got your website and social media and all that. Yeah,
all the social medias. YouTube. I don't have a whole lot on YouTube right now, so I won't. Anyway, don't look for us there yet. Teton Hammocks at Teton Hammocks on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
You can get all the information that you want on all of our products and anything else that we that we think is interesting at tetonhammocks.com, and that's Teton Hammocks with an S, because we want you to buy more than one hammock. So it's Teton Hammocks plural.
There you go. All right. Well, I will definitely be putting all those in the show notes as well, so people can see them and just click on them when they go to the show notes. But it's been great having you on to chat, and
it's been a lot of fun.
And hear how you got started and hear about the company and everything else. And like I said, here soon, I'm definitely going to be ordering a hammock from you, because
Paul didn't want to give yours away.
I didn't. I really didn't.
That makes two of us.
I called AJ. I was like, AJ, I've got this, I've got one of Mark's hammocks set up in my room and laying. I go, this thing is comfortable.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to, bring this one. I might, extra permanently forget it, but
it was donated. I promise.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, we definitely appreciate your continued support of HangCon. We really thank you for that. Also, thanks for continuing to spread the word about hammocks and being a missionary for hammocks within the scouting community. I thoroughly appreciate that in that organization as well. So thank you for all you do in multiple arenas, as well as for the hammock community in general.
Likewise,
Absolutely.
You guys too. Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. And make sure you check out the show notes and, follow all the links. Check out Mark's Facebook, Instagram. Go check out the website. Look at all the great gear that he has on there. Make you an order, and have a great great setup. Get some great product.
But until then, happy hanging, everyone.